Welcome back to the Nerd Cave for this edition of Save Toys. Of course, I'm your host Travis, as you well know, and today we're going to take a look at the 80 Years of Marvel, Marvel Legends X Factor Cyclops. So we're going to head over to the review booth, and there's a little surprise once we get there. So let's get started. Just like Santa Claus on December 25th, another episode of Save Toys come and gone. All right, we're at the review booth to take a look at this 80 Years of Marvel X Factor Cyclops. Now, I said in the intro that there was going to be a bonus surprise. You probably already guessed it because you saw the thumbnail, but boom, I've got a vintage X Factor Cyclops. Now, one disclaimer, this is a reissue. They were first issued in 91, and looking at the back of this package, I believe it was 93 when this was reissued. Now, the way to tell is, of course, the card in the back. I don't know if you can see that good or not, but the card in the back is not a card of Cyclops. The original one from 91 came with that card. But other than that, it's a great figure. It's got the little J hook. That's another reason. The original ones had the little I hook, and then later on when they reissued them, they made this a J hook, a little bit easier to get off the shelves. But I wanted to compare these guys side by side, starting with the packaging. Now, the line right here at Marvel Legends, they've really gone out of the way to recreate the original vintage feel. So even if you didn't own this figure, you have the same feel with the card that is on. Now, I do know there's been other Marvel Legends X Factor Cyclops released, but this one is the one that's going to harken you back to your childhood. As you can both see, the oranges there are very similar. Now, the side pictures are different, of course. They got updated a little bit, but even the back, we'll take a quick look at that. Even the back looks fantastic, and they did a really good job on that. Now, we're going to open the packages up to these, and that's going to break my heart because these are beautiful pieces right here. But, of course, we got to, starting with the 80 Years of Marvel Cyclops. So we're going to take a look at these figures outside of the package, starting with the Marvel Legends one. Now, right away, what I love about this figure is the metallic blue in it. You see that real good? That's just an interesting finish for this figure. I love the his eyes right here. Let's get a little bit closer look at that right there. And the lasers begin to well up outside of his eyes like he's getting ready to release a strong blast. Now, the one thing I don't like about it, as far as I can tell, these blast effects do not come off. So if you just want him standing there without any of this in his mask, this figure doesn't have that. I mean, I can probably take and cut those off if I wanted to, but I'm gonna leave them like they are. Now, one of the negatives I'm gonna point out about this figure is some of the shading here in the arm. The blue is kind of bleeding through in the white. You may not be able to see that as good on camera, but I don't really like that. It's kind of fading through, so that's not the best of paint jobs. And I have some similar effects on his chest, some bleed over some blue on the white. And some of the white isn't quite as clean as I'd like it to be, but the blue looks really good. The blue looks really good. The joints are tight. He's got the double jointed knees. You can see those real well there. Good ankles. Let's see. Some ankle rockers, double jointed elbows. He does have a hole in his back to add like a backpack or something like that for maybe another figure. Great ab crunch, good clicks there. Yes, that's gonna be real tight. Head can go up this far right here. To be honest with you, at the ab crunch, he can almost be in a flying position, which seems a little ridiculous for a Cyclops figure, but hey, I'm not ever gonna complain about extra. It's when something isn't enough that I'm going to complain and have gripes with. But again, the joints are real tight, so let's see. I think I can do a good job posing him in the Nerd Cave. You're liable to see him on some of the backgrounds coming up, maybe beside some of my Wolverines. So Cyclops has never really been one of my favorite characters, but due to the fact that I had the original vintage 91 X Factor Cyclops, when I saw this talked about, I think it was late last year that it was going to be released, I knew it was going to be something that I was going to have to buy and own. Now, with this guy out of the way, we're going to set him down right here. We're going to take a look at the vintage one. First thing we're going to get to is the feature. You may not be able to see it on camera as well because the light is so faint, but hit the little button on the back and his eyes light up, the little laser light there. And you can see the little switch back here. Get that a little bit closer. But the paint job on this thing is beautiful. It is so clean. The white is real glossy. There's not any bleed through that I'm aware of. Now, of course, you know, a 90s figure, the articulation is going to be lacking. Single jointed knees and elbows, no wrists, no ankle rockers, no neck, probably due to the feature here. But it does have, doesn't have an ab crunch, but hey, the way the legs are working, you can get some really good articulation out of his legs there, so that's pretty dang good. Now, neither one of these have any spare hands. This one has an open hand and a fisted hand, so it kind of covers both, while this one, very similar. Fisted hand, open hand. So that's some of the areas they're similar in. But side by side, these are great looking figures and comparable to each other. Let's go and take one more look at the back paint job on both. Now, before we go, I want to take a look at the pack ends, starting with, again, the Marvel Legends one. Now, it has an alternate head that's very similar to the first one. Let's see if I get that better. The power up on the one right here is a little bit smaller than these effects right here, but that's so that we can add the laser feature. Now, I know that is nothing new, but it does look really cool, and it's very easy to attach in and out real easily. So I like that. It's real tight. It's not going to fall out. So that's excellent. Now, this one, the pack end's very interesting. It's got this thing. Now, you may know what this is, and if you do, leave it in the comments below, but I have no idea. But again, I'll never complain about excess. This one being the reprint, it does not have the Cyclops card, and I hate that. This card, you may know more about this character than I do, but you know, there it goes. Now, the one thing that I do want to talk about right quick, this figure, the vintage packaging, the vintage look. Why not a reprint of the original Cyclops card in this? I do like the alternate head in the laser blast feature, but one more pack in, just a reprint of that card from the 90s, really would have tied it all together. So that's my review, and we're gonna head back over to the Nerd Cave and wrap this episode up. See you over there. And that concludes this episode of Save Toys. Thank you for joining us again here at the Nerd Cave, and a special thank you to Dan at Retro Reboot for finding this vintage X-Factor Cyclops. And if you're in the Waycross area, please stop by Retro Reboot. It's in the mall at Waycross. It's a fantastic store. And until next week, if you like it, collect it. See you then.